the population has been prepared for this for decades. This is sort of, it's all come to fruition in the way that a deep underground indolent infection finally creates an abscess cavity, and like an old piece of shrapnel, works its way up to the surface and finally comes out. And that's where we are. So let me go back as far as my profession tells me, and that is with the Flexner Report in 1920, when John D. Rockefeller created the Flexner Report, which closed down all the natural medical schools, homeopathic medical schools, naturopathic medical schools, anything that worked with nature. And he closed those down and invented the word quack, in the same way that the CIA invented the word conspiracy theory, in the same way that the pharmaceutical industry invented the word anti-vaxxer, okay? This is how it works. It's a giant psychological operation, a psyop. So you get all the people to believe that anything of the earth, anything living, is not to be trusted, and that the only thing that can make you better is a drug or surgery, that there's no way you can get better with anything other than a drug or surgery. Now, John D. Rockefeller was head of Standard Oil. And so he learned that you could make drugs from petrochemicals. And so Big Pharma makes drugs from petrochemicals. In the United States, the average 65-year-old person is on 6 prescription drugs at the same time. That's the average 65-year-old. That's not even, some are on many more than that. So we've grown up, and then we had this political, I remember this thinking, this seems off to me. Way back, we were electing somebody, and the meme was prescription drugs for seniors. The belief that in order to stay alive, you needed more drugs, more drugs, more drugs. All right, the other thing that happened then, so when I went to medical school, my aunt, a pediatrician, gave me a book called The Nuts Among the Berries. And it was about health nuts like me and like my dad and like our family, because I grew up with organic food, a compost heap, vitamin C spiking the orange juice, and Adele Davis, Let's Eat Right to Keep Fit. And my parents were doing yoga and jogging and all of that when I was 13, 12. And so, and the other thing that had happened is that I had a couple family members that would have died had they stayed in the hospital. You know, like when I was interviewing in medical school, my dad had chest pain, was taken to the coronary intensive care unit. In 2 days, he called my mother and he said, "Get me out of here. They don't know what's going on." The IV had infiltrated, he had a fever. And when I got home, and of course the nurses were furious, because anybody who questions the orthodoxy of modern medicine is a heretic. It's no different. I remember reading Dr. Mendelsohn, he's since died, but I remember reading his books when I was in residency about vaccines and about all of this stuff. I think his book was called, How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor, that kind of thing. Wonderful. So anyway, I get home from interviewing at Yale Medical School, and my dad is sitting up in his chair reading The Godfather by Mario Puzo. And he's got fluid 2/3 of the way up in his lung fields. So he could barely breathe if he's lying down. So he just sat there, and within about a week, he was better. They had misdiagnosed him. He had infectious pericarditis. He did not have a heart attack, and he got better on his own. So I learned a thing or two, and then I had a brother who was signed out against medical advice and all the rest of it. So anyhow, now and medicine, what you could still sort of practice. I did a lot with nutrition and all that, but way back in the 80s, I would close my door so that my colleagues couldn't hear me talking about diet with patients. Otherwise, I would be criticized. But I was quite good, like my dad had been, at walking between the worlds, because I said modern medicine has many, many good things, especially for trauma, really good. But they're missing a big piece. So we don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Let's just bring this missing piece in, which would be nutrition, your spirit, what happened to you in childhood, the microbiome of your body, all of those things. So let's bring that in. And then I would find when I wanted to bring that in, that was roundly criticized because, again, the PSYOP had already begun. You were a heretic.